on the computer. Okay. And James, do you want me to share my screen with the agenda?
Sure.
Okay, I'm going to share my desktop. I'm trying to get smart here, so I don't have to switch between windows. And I just, oh, I'm sorry, you're seeing the application. That's not quite what now, does there, seen something else here, sorry. I'm not as smart as I hope to be.
There we go.
There we go. So I think we should introduce ourselves.
Yeah, let's start off with introductions. And I know a lot of us, some of us know each other, but not everyone knows everyone. So if we could go around and our names are displayed, but maybe first name, institution, and then if you were involved in OFAR last year, what were you doing last year? And if you were not involved last year, let us know that as well. So let's see, Anna, I see you. I'm going to go around the screen. I'll get Anna and then go over to Deborah.
Absolutely. Hi, hello everybody. My name is Anna. I teach chemistry and geology courses at Monterey Peninsula College. And last year was my first full immersed OFAR experience with all of you. And I started from the beginning, and hopefully I had a little tiny project at the end that I could grow from, and that's exactly what I'm doing this fall. So I'm really looking forward to continue learning with everybody and teaching maybe a couple of things and just discussing. So hi.
Thank you, Anna. And Deborah, and then I'll go down to Kim.
Hi, everyone. I'm Deborah Crumpton. I teach at Sacramento City College in the business department. And last spring, it seems a long time ago, but I was in the first cohort and I worked on my introduction to business class. Had very ambitious goals to really do some revision on an OER text that I used. Didn't really get there with that, quite frankly, but did some changes to my assignments from non-disposable from disposable to non-disposable assignments, and have done a lot of work at my campus now with helping to spread the word about anti-racism and how courses can be made more anti-racist. So I am really jazzed about participating in this, and I feel so fortunate to have been selected to be a coach. So thank you, I'm very grateful.
Oh, thank you, Deborah. Okay, Kim and then Elisa.
Hi, everyone. I know most of you. My name is Kim Gruey. Please call me Kim. My pronouns are she and her, and I'm very happy to be here today again. Joy and I were the original co-developers and co-facilitators with a lot of guidance from James and Una when OFAR began. And I'm just delighted to still be included here. I primarily serve right now as an instructional designer for community college in Virginia, Northern Virginia Community College, and I'm working fully remote for them. But at the same time, I'm active in a lot of open work, and I'm doing this OFAR project. I'll be Joy and I are meeting later today to talk about revisions to the first iteration to make hopefully the process even better for the next cohort. And then we're also going to be serving not only as co-facilitators of one of the sections. I think I'm also going to be, the term is fun for me, so I'll say it, a super coach, sort of a coach of coaches, if you will. So I'm real excited about that, and so honored and happy to be here, and just happy to see everybody here that I have met and know, and looking forward to working with everybody some more.
Thank you, Kim. Elisa and then Aloha.
Hello, everyone. I am Elisa Cooper. I teach freshman composition, literature, and journalism at Glendale Community College in Arizona. I am a coach, and I was a coach last year. I thank Una for thinking of me and inviting me, because it was a very exciting program, and I had a great time last time. I have a background in OER, like she mentioned earlier. I used to head up as a tri-chair of our Maricopa Millions project. I also spent 4 years in our Center for Teaching and Learning as the faculty director. So I have an instructional design background. So, I keep teasing Una that, I was quietly trying to settle off into my pre-retirement years, but I keep getting drugged back in. But, it was a great project, so I'm not complaining at all.
We're thrilled that you let us drag you back in.
Yeah. Aloha and then Maritez.
Hi, everybody. I'm Aloha, and I'm a librarian at Cabrillo College. And well, that's my day job. And then at night, I also co-facilitate @ONE classes with Maritez and James sometimes. And let's see, I was a coach last year and returning this year. And last year, when I was coaching, I also co-wrote an OER. And I think that's primarily why I'm a coach, is OER background.
Excellent. Thank you, Aloha. Maritez, and then I'll go down to Jamie.
Hi, everyone. My name is Maritez Apigo, and I am at Contra Costa College in San Pablo, California, kind of on the cusp of Richmond. And although I live in Oakland, and over there, I am a OER coordinator, DE coordinator, and English professor. Had the pleasure of working with OFAR last year as a coach, and worked a little bit with Anna, which she modestly described as her tiny project, which was not so tiny, but wonderful to be able to give her some feedback there. And I also, see some of my @ONE colleagues here, Aloha, which she mentioned we co-facilitate together, and I see Jamie's here too. This year, looking forward to continuing in that role as coach, and also really looking forward to co-facilitating the course alongside Joy.
Yes, thank you, Maritez. And yeah,
I just wanted to say, Maritez, would you be happy, or would you be able to say what @ONE is, just because Elisa may not know what @ONE is, since she teaches in Arizona.
@ONE stands for Online Network of Educators, and it's the state's kind of professional development contingent, which trains faculty in online teaching.
Thank you.
yeah. Okay, thank you, Maritez. And Maritez, thank you so much for agreeing to co-facilitate one section of the OFAR course. Obviously, one of the big developments is that thanks to your success last year, our funder agreed to help us substantially expand the program. So we'll have 2 sections of the course running this year. So thank you, Maritez, for helping us do that. And Jamie.
Hey everybody, I'm Jamie Thomas. I'm also in California, like Kim. And I'm also hanging out with @ONE people. Hello, Maritez. Aloha, James. And James and I are pretty lucky this semester. We're hanging out together, co-facilitating, and I would think coaching people in the equity course for @ONE. So I feel like there's a lot of overlap probably with some of what OFAR is aiming to do. And I actually recognize a couple of you that I haven't met before through one of the videos that was on the OFAR website. So it's really great to meet you. I teach linguistics at Santa Monica College. So I really value language and communication as ways of making inroads into anti-racist pedagogy. So I'm really looking forward to learning more about open resources so that I can just continue to kind of share that out there in the atmosphere. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Jamie. How about you have a 1-sentence description of your forthcoming book?
Oh, Lord. Well, since you asked, and since I'm somewhat shameless, my book, Zombies Speak Swahili, is all about race, sci-fi, and anti-racist thinking when it comes to language pedagogy and the teaching of Africa. So I'm really excited. The book touches upon Mexico, Tanzania, and the US, and African diaspora kind of reality. So hopefully that'll be out by the end of the year or spring.
Awesome. Thank you, Jamie. And then Oliver, and then we'll wrap up with Joy. Oliver.
Very cool. My name is Oliver Rosales. I'm a professor of history at Bakersfield College. I was part of the OFAR cohort last year. Most of my project dealt with using ArcGIS technologies as a way to kind of do archives recovery in rural communities and immigrant communities. I also sort of partnered what I did with a virtual exhibit for the Smithsonian Museum's Dolores Huerta exhibit And so it was a real pleasure to be a part of the cohort last year, and I'm very excited to be invited back. I did a presentation on my campus on my project as part of our Flex Development Week workshops, and it was very well attended. I think we had about 40 people there, and so I'm excited that anti-racism OER is getting some good traction in the Central Valley. So thanks so much for inviting me back.
Excellent. Thank you, Oliver. And Joy, wrap us up.
That's a lot of pressure, James. Hi, everyone. It's really great to see so many familiar faces. My name is Joy Shoemate. During the day, I have the pleasure of working with James at College of the Canyons. I'm the Director of Online Education. And last year, I was so honored and privileged to have the opportunity to co-develop the OFAR course and co-facilitate it with Kim, and really get to work with so many of you here who were participants last year and now serving as coaches this year. So it's just really, I'm thrilled that we get to continue this effort, and really just thrilled to be with you all and getting this opportunity to continue this work. So I think that's about it.
Awesome. Thank you, Joy. Una, back to you for the agenda, or am I next on the agenda?
I think you're next, but I just wanted to say one more thing, and I think you all know me. So, Community College Consortium for OER. But Liz Yada, who does a lot of our logistics work, couldn't be here today because we're running an online conference this week and she's tech support for it this afternoon. So, but I know that many of you remember her from last year, and if you didn't, you'll get a chance to meet Liz in the future because she's a key part of the team.
That's right. Yeah, and the conference was a massive lift. It was a week-long conference around the world. 4 languages?
5. We
5
did
languages, time zones, going nuts all over the world. So pretty impressive.
Yeah.
And that's Una's parent organization, the Open Education Global organization.
Right. You'd think I'd be old enough to be my own parent, but at this stage.
Okay. So the next so next item on the agenda is just a quick review of the coaching role, and I'll
James,
run
I'm
through
sorry
that.
to interrupt you, but and you're right. So did everyone get an email message yesterday from the OFAR leaders group? Liz was too busy yesterday, and I had to. Thank you. I had to put that group together, and God knows, yeah. So I was hoping that everyone got that message yesterday. Okay, super. We're going to use that just because there's about 12 of us or 13 of us. I'm not sure, and I don't know. I was forgetting people, so I hope that works for everyone. And you can post to that as well if you have any questions at any time. So it will not include the participants. It's just for the leaders of the project.
Great, thank you, Una. Good, then I'll talk a little bit about the role of the coach, and after I stop talking in a minute or two, I think we'd all benefit from hearing from those of you who were coaches last year and those of you who were participants last year interacting with the coaches about what tips you might have, what not to do, what we might be overlooking. So just start thinking about that. I'm going to share my screen if I can, Una.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So can everybody see a document entitled OFAR Coach Statement of Work? Great. So this is taken from the draft of the contract that will be coming your way. Thank you, everyone, by the way, for completing the paperwork and sending me the information to get the contracts rolling. We're waiting for one more person to submit information, and then I'll work with our contracts department to initiate that contract and get it out to you. And as always, the paperwork takes longer than you can ever imagine. So thanks in advance for being patient. But this document that you see really is exactly what you're going to see in the contract. So I'm just using that so there won't be any surprises, but we can verbally sort of unpack what this might mean. So first of all, for the fall, we ask that you help us to review the applications, and we'll talk much more about the applications and that process in just a minute. We ask that you provide feedback on the OFAR Canvas course. Those of you who participated last year, that was a 4-week course. This week it's going to be a 6-week course, which is based on a lot of feedback from last year. Kim and Joy mentioned they're meeting later today to start on those revisions. We've had the course reviewed by 5 outside experts.
Some way outside and some community college folks, but around the country.
Yeah, so there's already a bundle of revisions and a bundle of reviews. So I think by the time you see it, it'll be, 99.9% ready to roll. But just to have one more pair of eyes would be beneficial. But the reason I point that out is that it's probably not going to be a ton of work to review it by the time you see it. Then we ask that you provide feedback on the action plans that the participants will create as part of that course. The course is going to run from the beginning of November through mid-December. So around the beginning of December, and Kim and Joy can let us know if that calendar changes, but around the beginning of December, the participants will be producing that action plan. So we ask that you provide some feedback on the action plans for the group you're assigned to. So that would be 10-ish, and we'll talk. No, not 10-ish. That would be 7-ish, 8-ish. I'm mixing up the numbers with the number of applications. And then on occasion to participate in these larger group meetings with the leadership team. So that's the overall picture for the fall. I'm going to scroll down and take a look at the
only other thing I would add is I know we had some feedback from some of our coaches last year that they wanted to be more active in the fall. So I believe that, and Kim and Joy, I know you're meeting later today, but I think last year we also let our coaches be part of the course so that you can be at least reviewing what's getting posted within those discussion areas if you choose to, so that you can feel a little bit more connected. Because part of the reason we extended the course it was sort of extended on the beginning and then the end of the course, kind of stretched out a little to give more time for the content. But the end is kind of to provide a little bit more time for feedback and revision of those action plans in December before the implementation in January or whenever the faculty wants to choose to do that. But it was pretty rushed last year. I think it was just given that it was it was the end of January, and then most people were teaching the next week, and so they were still getting feedback, and so we thought that there'd be a little bit more back and forth on the feedback because they'll be submitting sometime in early December, and so perhaps there's time for one set of revisions. And I know Joy and Kim will keep us posted on that. But we'd like the coaches to be involved in that.
Yeah, thanks. To pop into the course. If there's some hot discussion in the course and you're going to be working with those folks, you probably want to be aware of what it is, right? So you're not walking into something. And then the big picture for the spring is, and this is really much more the coaching role, provide ongoing support for an assigned peer group, so 7-ish. No, we'll see what the final numbers are. We ask that you meet with your peer group up to twice per month. It's up to you to schedule how that happens. Is it synchronous? Is it Zoom or phone or how some other format? But up to twice per month, and we really do want to hear from the folks from last year what you think about this. We encourage you to establish a calendar with them ahead of time, or at the outset of your interaction with them. One of the points of feedback we received last year was a desire for more structure. So we would encourage you to establish that calendar right off the bat. And then again, in the spring, an occasional large group meeting like this. And then you will recall that throughout the spring, last year, and we will do it again this year, we'll host a series of webinars, monthly webinars, once per month, with outside experts. We are strongly encouraged to participate in those. I know that many of you did last year. We certainly welcome your participation there. I think that's, you know, if we're engaged in this kind of work, it's kind of the kind of thing that's probably fun for us anyways, that we would want to do anyways. And just to confirm everything, there, you know, the total payment is $2,000, and you can invoice twice, so once in December and once in June. And if you need any help creating an invoice, just let us know. Let me know. I can, you know, help you with that if that's not a familiar process for you. So no problem there at all. So with that, I'd love to hear from, I guess, everybody who was involved last year. What are we missing? What should be on our minds as we think about coaching this year? Anyone, everyone? Just go ahead and unmute and speak up, please.
I would just add that, you know, the structure and making sure that that we're meeting with them, because last semester or last year, I just felt like I didn't really have a good idea of how they were doing. It's kind of like those of you that teach, when you ask your students, how's it going? Oh yeah, it's going fine. But then you find out later that they were struggling, they just didn't want to tell you. And so I think that when they're in a situation where they kind of have to talk to you, where it's not really optional, that's going to be better. So I'm kind of looking forward to that change.
I have a question. How comfortable are you all? And please just be frank and open with being involved in the course site asynchronously, maybe at the beginning where we do community building, and now we're going to expand the course and spend the first week really kind of orienting and community building. And that was the other thing, like maybe you should be introduced to your team right away from the get-go, and we should have a small team that you're assigned to from the very beginning. Joy and I are going to talk about this more. I mean, we have several options, but I'm asking, since you're here, what's your comfort level during that time period when the course is running of sometimes actually sort of being invited to be in there? Like if we're building community and they only associate with me and Joy, and then you all come in, I don't know, there seems a disconnect maybe. So I'd like to hear about that, what you all think about those things.
This is Deborah. I really like that. I felt totally disconnected from my coach. I don't ever remember meeting a coach, quite frankly. And so for me, that was a huge, you know, it's a gap. So I like that idea. I like the idea of community building. I think that, you know, because this program stretches far beyond the 6 weeks we'll spend together and semester we'll spend together. So I vote for that.
I think for me, there's certain topics that were discussed within the modules that I'm certainly passionate about or especially interested in. I think I would love to maybe participate within those discussions or introduce myself within a particular module, whereas other modules I might not be as interested or passionate about participating. So that's just a thought too.
I agree with Alisa's changes that are happening with the coaches, you know, having to actually meet with your group rather than having it be just kind of over email. I think there's going to be a lot more of a personal connection happening there. And I also really like Kim's proposal to get involved in the course early on. And I think it'd be great to know who we're being assigned to early on, so then we can also kind of start building relationships while they're in the course. So when the course ends, it just becomes seamless.
Okay, yeah, that's a really good point. I know when James and I were talking about this earlier, we said peer groups would be assigned by the end of November, but it sounds like maybe we want to make that earlier. So we haven't chosen the actual teams yet, so that will come first. But yeah, I hear what you're saying, Marie-Tez. Have that earlier.
can I say something really quick? I agree with everything that everybody said, and I think it might help because there was a lot of time spent at the beginning as a coach, just trying to figure out how the team wanted to meet. Like, I think Oliver, you might remember, like there was a lot of discussion, like should we meet? Some people wanted to meet synchronously. Some people want too busy to meet synchronously. Like, do we want to use the discussions in Canvas? Some people didn't want to use the discussions in Canvas. Some people did, and there was a lot of probably wasted time spent just on the logistics of what we were doing. So that was one lesson learned, which might be solved by like starting earlier. And then also if somehow we could get any questions from the teams, I guess we could solicit them. I found that figuring out what the common questions were was really helpful as a coach. Like if you find that everybody on your team has a similar question, like about licensing, for example, then my thought was as a coach to make like a quick video, like explaining or demonstrating something rather than waiting for everybody to ask the question individually. I don't know, that was something I was planning to make more videos this time as a coach.
I found the videos helpful last year as a participant. I definitely appreciate it. I think Kim's feedback on several of my posts. At the same point though, too, like I don't want to interfere as a coach too much with that initial kind of incubation period, so to speak, when they're learning all the modules. So I think we have to, I guess, be careful, right, how we balance our deliberate intrusions.
Yeah, my 2 cents, now that Oliver is saying that, that's what I was thinking. I was thinking it would be great, like in my asynchronous classes, I always have a mini video in the beginning of the week and, hey, how are you doing? I think we might have problems with this, talk to me. And then they email me and then I get the video kind of answering those questions. It's very personal to whoever's the need that you all have, but we don't want to be overshadowing what's happening on the other end. So maybe some compromise of sorts. When I was doing this, a lot of you probably had the same problem. The group's idea was so fantastic, but the reality is that some people could not meet and it was almost impossible to figure out a time. Synchronously for me is the thing to go. There's nothing can beat that, but we'll probably have to be prepared for 80% of the people you actually meet in this. And then you actually have to do a 20% some other way to reach out these other people. That is how I experienced it last time, and probably it's the same this year.
Somebody in a past group recorded a Zoom session that I wasn't able to attend, and I did watch it and it was totally helpful. I think Cosna was in that group. So that's a great strategy too. Just like we're doing this one, right?
Yeah, well, terrific. This is really terrific. So, and Jamie asks, in the spring, will there still be a Canvas discussion posted available in the for FAQs? Yes, great question, Jamie. Joy or Kim, do you want to talk about what you did last year throughout the spring?
Kim, you want me to take? Okay, I'll start and Kim will add in if I miss anything. Yes, so first go around, in the spring, there were the monthly webinars. So we would post to keep the group, or as a way to keep the group informed of those monthly webinars. And then we also posted discussion board questions as like a check-in. So to see how the implementation of the action plans were actually going and if there were any questions. So we, I think we'll want to be more explicit this time around so that the participants know to still stay engaged in the Canvas course, because we were sort of, it was evolving as we were kind of going. But we would post discussion questions in the and assignments in the Canvas course as a way to just continue the check-in process on the action plan implementation, and then also utilizing the course as a way to just share information about the webinars that were coming up. And trying to use that as a space to remind the participants that they have coaches and that the coaches are available, but kind of taking a step back and allowing those groups to connect as they saw fit.
Yeah, and when we started, when the spring began, we were just like, oh, just post an announcement when we get some information from James or something. And then it was like, you know what, we better do a weekly digest. This is getting crazy. And so that's basically what we did. Joy and I would take turns every other week to be the one who'd kind of like keep track of all the emails and put it in a Google Doc or something, and then try to make a succinct but comprehensive announcement, providing the information about the webinars, about whatever the status reports that were due that Joy mentioned, and those sorts of things. But I think an FAQ is a really neat idea. We can base some of those on like things that we know last time were just like Joy and I are going to revise, but at the same time, there's probably FAQ issues that we should have in there. I think that's a really good idea. Thank you for that one, Jamie.
Yeah, and Joy and Kim, last year coaches created spaces within the course for their groups, and I think where they were able to maintain calendars and various other resources. I know Aloha, I think you might have started that, but I think other coaches did some of that work, or some people did. So is that something that would be helpful, is to have a place that's, kind of dedicated to you and your peer group? Because what we, in listening to your feedback, we had thought that before people go off on the December break, there should be some kind of calendar in place, at least for January and February, because people will be coming back at different stages in January and February, and some people will be teaching, right away, and some people won't be teaching till February. And so it's going to be hard to get a hold of people. So that might be a place for you to put a calendar so that your folks, whoever is in your peer group, can go to that location and make sure that, they're set up to be able to meet with everybody.
I would think that's a very desirable goal, right? That by December that you with the peer group you're assigned to have established a calendar, perhaps even for the entire spring, including the format of meeting, right? Is everything going to be asynchronous in Canvas? Is everything going to be via Zoom? Is it going to be optional via Zoom and you'll record the meetings? And I think, we could make that decision for everybody, but just the reality of everybody's schedules and each of your own styles, I think suggests that you're the best position to figure that out with a smaller number of people.
I would like to have a team space again in the Canvas shell, because originally my team, we thought we didn't want that, but then it ended up being really helpful. And then as a coach, you can use the announcements too to send out an announcement to the whole team in your group. And yeah, you can use it. Even if you decide to use Zoom, you could post the Zoom link there and have a discussion like asynchronously for anybody who wasn't, you know what I mean? I don't know, it just provides more flexibility where you could just keep everything together and have all your communications there as well.
Yeah, I created some professional development materials, touting the wonders of the group space in Canvas. And I hear you loud and clear, Aloha. And I'm wondering, I think I'm hearing that we're going to set the teams up pretty early and create a group space for each of the teams. And then what I was saying in the chat, based on what I'm hearing you all say, is I think, and what James said as well, we'll provide structure and maybe some choices so that we can model UDL and that sort of thing and be inclusive, but provide choices so there is a structure and it's not sort of a free for all. You have to decide how you're going to do everything, like sort of build it into the program that these are some of the expectations. And I think this feedback that y'all are providing is very helpful. I'm writing down everything. Thank you.
Excellent. Great. Thank you so much, everyone. Just keeping an eye on the time and the agenda. I think we do need to move on. Is that good, Una?
Yes, and James, this is your last main agenda item, which is, let's tell folks about how many applications we received.
Wow. So in the email, Una used the term overwhelming, an overwhelming number of applications, which is an accurate choice of words. We used that last year as well. So last year, to recap, we solicited and accepted applications from individuals. And this year it's teams from colleges. Last year we had space, or we had the resources to support 17, well, really 16 individuals. And then another organization helped us support a 17th individual, or 16th and 17th actually. So
It was 15 and 17, but
yeah, 15, yeah.
I managed the budget. I know these things.
That's right. Details go to her. Yeah. So at any rate, overall, 17 individuals, we had 330 applications. This year, shifting to the teams model, so we said that we're soliciting applications from colleges. The team could be from 2 to 6 individuals. Most of them turned out to be, a higher number of individuals. I mean, most of them turned out to have 5 or 6 individuals. And we received 68 applications, which is just, again, amazing. 54 unique colleges. So again, 68 overall, 54 unique colleges. So a number of colleges had multiple teams applying, which is fantastic, right? This, it kind of, in the one moment you think, oh my God, how are we ever going to do this? But on the other hand, you say, well, isn't it wonderful that so many colleagues want to do this work? This is really good news. We sorted them by region. You may be aware that in the California community colleges, we're divided into 7 regions for, state chancellor's office kind of stuff. So there are 7 regions. We divided the teams or the applications by region, going from north to south. The far north, we had 9 applications. The San Francisco Bay Area, we had 12 applications. This is total. This includes the duplicates from colleges. Central Valley, 8. South Central Coast, which is our area, College of the Canyons, we only had 3. Inland Empire, 3. San Diego, 10. And as always in the state of California, LA is the largest, had 22.
23 actually.
Applications
That was,
in California. And it was the same last year. I mean, last year we could have filled, all 17 slots with white, female English professors from LA. I mean, that's how many, amazing applications we had, and they're all great applications, but just, we want to ensure that the teams are diverse in diversity in a lot of different ways. And we can talk more about that in a second, but regional diversity is one of the things that we will want to look at. Not that you don't have to look at that, but that Una and I will look at that at the end. We might move a few things around at the very end. Sort of our aspirational goal. We haven't tied ourselves to this, but ideally we'd be able to accept 1 team from each region so that we're having an impact throughout the state. That would be, it's a goal. We'll see how the numbers play out in the end. Anything I'm missing on that, Una?
I think that's a good overview, because we want to kind of go through the actual review process with you. Last year, our coaches, we just sort of sent everything over email and they did an amazing job. We decided this year would be really helpful to actually go through that. So
It's a lot better this year, we hope.
we hope. Let's see. Oh, are you seeing my desktop? Let me see. Are you seeing the OFAR Coach?
The agenda.
Yes, good. So sorry to segue. I hope we're happy to answer questions as I'm bringing this up. But so I wanted to go over the rubric with you, and I know I sent that out, a couple of times to people. It's changed up just a little bit. Can everyone see that on the screen? So,
Yeah, could you make it a little bigger?
Yes. Let me see if I can.
And
I have it on a big screen. How's that? Is that better? Great. All right. So there's basically 7 criteria that we're looking at and you'll see that here. One is the diversity of the team. And there's three, I guess there's three sort of factors that we've decided to look at. One is race, ethnicity, gender, and then full-time adjunct. So we're hoping to encourage adjuncts to be part of this work. And then we've assigned, +1, +2, +3. So people can get between 1 and 3 for that. I shouldn't say people, applications can get between 1 and 3. Then for level of OER experience, this one is a little bit of a continuum. So we basically said 1 or 2, but 1 or 2 points for that one. And if you probably didn't have a chance to look at the application, but it's either they can specify that they're a beginner, they're medium, or they're strong. And I found in doing some initial scans that sometimes people norm this a little bit differently, right? So some people will say they're medium where somebody else might say they're a beginner. Just people have different ways of responding to these things. So sometimes in reading the applications, I would actually give somebody who said medium a 1 here. I would give them the same as a beginner because I would read some of the other parts of the application, like their teaching practices that they're hoping to accomplish. And I could see that they were still pretty early on their path. The same is true with the level of anti-racist or culturally responsive teaching. So that one also is a 1 or a 2. It's the only 2 questions that are 1 or 2 ratings. All the rest of them are 1 through 3. And the reason we chose that is because we don't really want to, punish people, for lack of a better word, for not having the OER experience. Although we do know if they have some OER experience coming in, it is helpful. So we didn't want to skew it too much where you would get 3 points for OER experience. And the same for the anti-racist or culturally responsive teaching experience, 1 or 2 points there, because we know people are coming to learn about this. So we don't want to overly be punitive on that. Then for teaching practice, you could read the narrative. I think they have 200 words there, and then it's +1 through +3, depending on how well they were able to articulate the teaching practices that they hope to accomplish. Student impact is fairly similar. Once again, 1 through 3, depending on how many students they hope to impact and the diversity of their students. And then number 6 is institutional impact. And so once again, it runs from 1 to 3, minimal institutional impact, medium or strong. And minimal might be just them and other people on their team. Medium might be they're going to have their whole department or division involved. And then institutional might be this is really going to make a difference at my institution, and they give you some concrete reasons why. And the last one here is, I should say second to last one is the institutional support metric. And this is, it's probably the more complicated one. Number 1, everyone was required to do a letter of support from their dean or department chair. So, and Liz went through and checked, and everybody did. So that's probably a check off, although we would ask you to read it very quickly. Your review sheet will have a link to the letter. So just to take a look at it and make sure that it's not a, it's a complete letter. And then if they went beyond that and they said that they would have support from either the library, instructional design, the OER team, equity, curriculum, student government, they would get an extra point. And then if they went beyond that and they had maybe multiple departments that were really going to support this work, and or they had an executive letter of support, that would take them up to a higher rate, probably to a 3. And then finally, you have this last one, which is kind of number 8. It's, do you recommend the team? And sometimes this is a little bit of an intuitive thing where, you really feel like maybe they didn't grade quite as high, but you really feel that you want to give them that extra point, which might push them over a little bit higher than some other teams. And that, because this is, you have to look at it this kind of holistically at the teams. It's not entirely objective, to be honest. It's to some degree, we're looking at a continuum, and what we bring a lot to this reviewing of ourselves and who we think will make an impact. So that's one to give you, a point where you feel you really want to pull a team ahead by a point, not more than a point. And so it's a minimum, an application can receive a minimum of 7 or a maximum of 20. I'm sorry, I probably went over that in a little bit too much detail, but any questions before we jump to what the application review sheet looks like?
Can I ask a very quick question, Uma?
Yeah, please do.
We are going to see this per group, per team, not per person. Am I wrong?
Correct. The application has, and I'm going to show you one in just a moment. I'll show you the application. Maybe, well, so you'll receive an application review sheet like this afternoon. All of you will receive one by email. You'll receive your own. And the only thing that'll be different about the one you received this afternoon is the application links will be filled in. Those will be links to Google. Well, there'll be links to PDFs. So you'll click on that and you'll be able to read the PDF, which was the application as submitted. And there'll also be a link to the support letter here in this column H. And then you get to fill in the columns here, columns B through I. Sorry, B. I think it's B through J, and it corresponds directly to that rubric. And there's also a link to the rubric document here. So for me, it's easier for me if I print things like that out when I'm doing stuff, but it's there so that you can have 2 windows open at the same time as you're going through it. And let me see if I can scroll here. So, and then if you have comments, this can be very useful sometimes, not only for you, but also for us, because we will go back. Each application will be reviewed by at least 2 of you. And so if we find that Jamie, for instance, gives somebody a 7, and Aloha is reviewing the same application and gives them a 20, then that's a little bit of a light bulb to James and I, and we have to reread that any application that looks like that, right? To make sure what was it, what was the problem here? And so then if you put some comments in there, that could be really helpful for us, because it really triggers us into what you were thinking when you did those assignments. Once again, comments are optional, but they can be really helpful for refreshing your memory. You'll each get about 11. There's 2 sheets that only have 10 on them, but most of you will receive 11 applications to review. And they will all be on this one Google Sheet. And then I wanted to show you one example, if this would be, I hope that this is helpful. So so try to ignore the names here, but anyway, this one came in. It's actually one of the ones that we eliminated because it was a duplicate. But it was actually a really wonderful application in many ways, but I think it's quite instructive. So it came in from one of our colleges. As you can see, the instructor here who did a business. And in fact, if you look here at the top, how many faculty members? You can't see my finger pointing, can you? Anyway, question number 2 says 6. So you have 6 faculty members who've submitted, and it turns out that they're all business. One's teaching intro to business, one's doing business law. We had 2 doing business law and 1 doing statistics for business. So really a wonderful set of courses. And so look at the diversity of the team. This is quite a diverse team. So race and ethnicity, we've got 2 African Americans, 3 white, 1 Latinx, and 3 males and 3 females. However, they're all full-time. So when we go back to that diversity rubric, you might decide to give them 2 or 2.5 points, but they don't get the full 3 points because they don't have any adjuncts. Okay, so does that make sense to people in terms of grading? So that's kind of how those 3 criteria for diversity was race and ethnicity, gender, and sort of full-time adjunct.
I'm sorry, Una. Oh, Deborah, I see you have your hand up. Do you want to go
No,
first?
I think I was just going to ask, how do you consider the fact that everybody's from the same discipline? But I see that that's not part of the criteria for diversity.
That is correct.
All
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
How did you determine that these were all full-timers?
You'll see that later. Yeah, and I'm
Oh,
sorry,
okay.
you can't always tell initially. So,
Okay.
all right, and so we choose your team's overall level of familiarity with open educational resources, strong team's level of overall familiarity with anti-racist and culturally responsive teaching practices, strong, so that they would be, you'd want to read some more, but they might be getting a full 2 points on those. So then you go to the question on their overall teaching experience at community colleges. They have over 100 years of combined teaching. The second sentence says all 6 members are full-time faculties within the business division. Two out of the 6 are tenured. I'm sorry, 2 of the 6, and the other 4 are tenure track. So, I mean, and it's an excellent team in many, many ways. Unfortunately, we had an even more amazing application from the same college. So, so what does your team hope to change about their teaching to be anti-racist? So their practices, materials, and methods are all able to be revised. We're very open to best practices, new information, and ways to improve teaching and evaluation from an anti-racist lens. We are all focused on student success. So these are good, but there's not a lot of detail in those. So, you have to kind of decide where it falls on the continuum. And then how do you hope to impact students? They have a fairly good but brief description about these. These are all business classes, and they're required courses for our most popular degree of business. So we know that there's some impact there for sure. Maybe there could be more detail. And what you'll find is as you read the applications, you'll start to get into a rhythm on grading them, right? Because you'll see the depth, kind of the depth. And then how would your institution or department benefit? So PCC will benefit from our team's participation in many ways. Oops, sorry, I didn't mention the college. It will enable faculty to redesign the courses to reflect anti-racism. The courses being focused are on transfer and degree, which are high enrollment. And they will take these courses throughout the division. So some good institutional impact as well. And so then once again, so you'd look at your rubric and decide, where on the continuum they fell. And then they did submit a letter of support, and you'll be able to click on that and read it. The letter of support, people were given a template. So you will see in most cases, it will just be a very brief template that we gave to people previously. And would you like to see what that looks like?
I just want to keep an eye on the time.
Yeah. Okay. So, and then what other supports can the team expect from your institution? And I mentioned this in the rubric. You can see this team expects support from their library and instructional design. So they definitely get at least 2 for institutional support, because they have the letter and they definitely have the library and instructional design support. So, so that's kind of a typical application. And this one is actually quite good. But once again, we have 54 to review, many of which had 5 or 6 people, of which we can only choose a very limited number. So it's a very competitive application at this point.
One other thing that I noticed that did play a role in my mind is that in some applications, people identified themselves as playing key roles on campus. For example, the curriculum chair, or the Senate VP, or the chair of the diversity committee. And in my mind, that contributes to institutional impact. But as we said, this is to a large extent, this is impressionistic or holistic on your end.
This particular example didn't have, so I'm really glad you brought that up, James. A lot of the other folks who have applied, I've seen a lot of other applications as well, where there was more of a role on campus that they played beyond their division. So yeah, so that's kind of a sample one. And I think that's primarily what I wanted to show folks. Let's see if I can go back to our agenda. So we saw the overview of the rubric. We saw the review sheets. And then I just wanted to go over some program dates with you. So,
Before you do that, I just had a quick question.
yeah, please. Yeah.
I'm curious my understanding is there are 40 slots for 40 individuals. Is that still a true statement?
Well,
Ish.
ish.
So I was just asking to say, how will you decide that once, suppose what comes out of the selection process is 7 teams, but 42 people, for example. How will you control the numbers? Will there be some other rubric for doing that?
That's an excellent question, Deborah. This is why we need you to return your reviews by next Sunday for us, because James and I then go through and look at that. We do have a little bit of headroom on how many people we can accept. But once again, we don't want to overburden you, the coaches, or our facilitators. But I think there is funding to go a little bit beyond 40. But once again, if somebody has 4 people, it's not like we're going to split a team, right? So if people float up to the top and they had 6 and it pushes us over that 40, we think we have some headroom there. So yeah, Deborah, it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, and part of it, Deborah, to be blunt, is a budget question, right? As you know, the participants receive a stipend, and we have, that budgeted for 40 people. So if we end up with a situation which everyone agrees that we need to have 42 total because of the composition of the teams, then Una and I need to go back to the budget and see what we can do to carve out a couple of dollars more. Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely. I was just, it just seems to me that there would be a secondary problem, right? So
Yeah.
I was just curious of how that was being looked at.
Yeah.
Great, thank you.
Thank goodness we have a business professor in the midst.
All right. Does that mean Joy? We get to sign Joy up for?
Oh, Deborah's a professor of business.
That's Deborah all the way.
I'm sorry. Absolutely. Yeah. I know.
Oh, heck, I forgot. Joy, I apologize. Forgot about your background.
Nope,
My gosh.
that's all
I was
Deborah.
referring to Deborah though, for sure.
Yes. Dr. Deborah all the way.
Oh, did I volunteer for something? Uh-oh.
Yeah. You're good, but if we need help, we know where to go. So we're hoping that you can finish these by next Sunday. So that gives you this weekend, if you so choose, or next weekend. James and I reviewed, how many did we review? We reviewed 14 each, did we, James?
Yeah.
Something on that order. It took me a couple of hours to do 14. However, I wrote the rubric. It was based on last year. So, and James, of course, was very familiar with the rubric from last year. It's been adapted somewhat, but so for those of you who are new, I would expect it would be a little bit more involved.
And the thing is,
hopefully not a lot.
They're all going to be really good, I think, so it's going to be painful. You just have to say it. It's going to be painful. It's going to be difficult to make a decision, but in the end, you're going to have to make a decision. It's not going to be easy.
And keep in mind that someone else is reviewing that exact same application as you are. So we're going to have 2 sets of inputs. So yeah, that's just.
But with the Google Doc, we'll be able to kind of go back and look at our numbers after we go through that first time if we want to fudge anything.
Absolutely. It'll,
All right.
yeah, that Google Sheet. But if you wouldn't mind, finishing your revisions by the 10th.
Sure. Yeah, I guess I mean within that time. It's always helpful to see things holistically, I think, at the end when you're reviewing anything. So.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I'm out of town that weekend, so I'm not going to look at them till Monday, the 11th. So just warning you, James.
That's okay. And I do have to get off here. I'm afraid I'm probably going to be the first one who has to leave. But if I can just really quickly talk about the contract. So the contracts for the coaches will be through College of the Canyons. As I said at the outset, thank you to everyone here who has returned the information that I requested regarding the contracts. We're waiting for one more individual to submit their information. Then I can get the information to our contracts department, and we'll be patient. The paperwork is there's always more paperwork than you think, and it always takes longer than you think. But it will be coming. College of the Canyons is good for the money. So just thank you in advance for your patience.
All right, thanks, James. I just wanted to go through these super quick and then let you all go so that you can start your
And
weekend.
I've got to go. I've got to say thank you and bye-bye, everybody.
Yeah.
Such a joy to see everybody. Thanks.
Thank you, James.
Bye, James. Bye, James.
So I know that Joy and Kim are working away on the course, and so they're hoping by around the 15th of October, there'll be something that you can review. I realize that it's a tight schedule, but keeping our fingers crossed that sometime in that mid-October. And as James mentioned, the course isn't going to be in pretty good shape at that time. And so it really will be just, it'll be good for you to be familiar with it as well, because then you'll know what everyone's going through. We will have a launch webinar on the 22nd for our participants, and we'd love to have you join us. I mean, once again, it's not an absolute requirement, but we really want you to be a lot more visible this year than you were last year. So we will ask each of you to introduce yourself, like 60 seconds, sorry, a minute or two, about who you are. Yeah, you each get your own hour to talk about yourself. Just kidding. Okay. And then of course, the course begins November 1st. And we thought one of the feedback we got from our folks last year was, we'd like to see some examples of some of the projects. What does an action plan look like, and what's the implementation look like? So we'd love it if some of the participants from last year who are coaches might be willing to share just informally on the 19th. It's a Friday at noon. If that doesn't work into your schedule, don't worry about it. But we know that you asked for that last year and we didn't have it. So we wanted to make that available to people. And I know Joy and Kim may also be including some of that in the course, because we can link to some of the things that were at the showcase webinars last year. So last June and May and June, but it might be nice to have a Q&A session for people. And then December 3rd, we're thinking about having one more meeting with the full team to talk about the spring calendar. Once again, you don't absolutely have to come to that one. We want our participants to come so that they'll understand kind of what's coming up for the spring. And this will be mostly around the webinars, because you guys will, the webinars and kind of different research pieces that they need to participate in, because of course you'll be working with your own teams around setting up your calendar. So we won't, be presenting on that. Any questions? I will send this out if it's helpful. I'll send this meeting, this meeting minutes out to you on the email list, so that you have a copy of this with the dates, just to keep that handy if that's helpful. And
Well, I have one question. This is Deborah again. Is the October 22nd meeting, is that at noon?
Yeah, we tried to do all of them Friday at noon.
Okay, that's right. I want to make sure.
Yeah.
I have a question. It's more a curiosity question.
Yeah.
If you don't mind, just talking about what the ideal product would look like, what the ideal group of teams that we are working with would look like. Are we considering at all having some kind of widespread discipline variety as well? Having sciences, having social sciences, or is that not particularly the goal?
I mean, I think it's a really great question. And I think you have to read the application, because actually the one we went through from Pasadena, I thought was amazing. Think about the business department engaging around this. However, we had another application from the same college, because James and I were eliminating multiples from the same college, that was a little higher than this. And so I think absolutely it's fine if you feel really strongly that something that's all one discipline is going to be really high impact and you really can get a sense of that. I think you should go with, that one should get graded higher. But if you find that one, they say, well, we're going to have, folks from all these different disciplines, and this is really going to make a huge impact on the college, because, we're going to have math and English and all of those areas working on anti-racism, then, then that probably is something that's also deserves a high score. So it's not cut and dry.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Oh, yeah, Jamie, please.
Let me just ask a quick question because I'm just trying to get a sense of how large of a group we work with as coaches. And actually, when Anna just asked her question, I was thinking, oh, is she talking about like having a single discipline for a coaching group? Or, but it almost sounds like because of the size, the different sizes of these teams or groups from schools, that the group that we would be working with as a coach will comprise members from different schools and different disciplines. And so, yeah, I'm just trying to get a sense of, or remind me, please, how many people we'd be working with. I'd be working with, say 7 folks and just bringing them along through the
We
process.
estimated originally 6, but I think it might go as high as 7 or 8 potentially, which in that case, and it kind of depends on how it splits. We didn't want to split the actual college teams. We kind of wanted them to work together. So once again, it's going to depend on that. So you might have 2 colleges, like one with 4 and one with 3, or one with 4 and 2. So
Yeah, you just answered one of my questions. I was wondering, are we keeping those teams together on their small teams? So we might need to build in just some like asynchronous small group activities that's just for this activity, just so you can meet colleagues from elsewhere. Otherwise, there's a possibility, if you're a 6-person team, you're probably going to be mostly you guys and maybe one other person or something who's the same. Well, can't do that. At least 2 people for a team, another team. So
yeah, that's what we have talked about, is for the peer groups that they would be, we wouldn't split colleges. But for the work that Joy and Kim, you do, so many people from last year said it was wonderful to meet people from other colleges. So I don't think that the asynchronous activities that you do during the course should be limited to just the college teams.
oh, not at all. But I'm thinking that Joy and I are probably going to have more of a hand in structuring the coaching aspect a little bit, with your approval and all, but
No,
just
absolutely.
as we set things up, so thank you for clarifying.
You're
on
the
that.
super coaches, so
That's what I like to say.
that
Thank you.
That means the real coaches get to push all the tough stuff up to you guys. Well, thank you all for your time and attention, and you should have those reviews in hand later today. Liz and I split them up and said, I'll send 5, you send 5. So if you have any questions, they're all Google Sheets. This morning I went through and gave everybody access. So if for some reason I blew it, let me know. So when you get the email, if you get a chance to just check and make sure the sheet's available, otherwise I'll fix it right away. But it should be. So thank you so much. And I hope you all have a wonderful weekend.